How is your head? Next time, I will make sure I crack your skull open so that when I give an instruction, you will store it in the right compartment. I have zero tolerance for rubbish. I said stay outside when I have visitors. Don't come into my parlor. Do not enter my parlor. Which part of that didn't you understand?
Hello, Jumbo, Karibu. Welcome to my channel. My name is Chinanda, and this is Library Without Borders. Alright guys, welcome to another episode of Library Without Borders. Did you see the little skit that I did there? Now, I know I ain't no actress. I tried that. I was so inspired by the book that I will be talking about in a few minutes that I decided to impersonate a Nigerian mother. I've been reading so much about Nigerian mothers, and I was just like, and I've watched so many of the Nollywood movies as well to have an idea of how these mothers can be overbearing sometimes. But so I hope you enjoyed it, that little skit at the beginning there. Alright guys, so I hope you're doing well. Today is Friday and it's a bit chilly. I can sense fall. I can sense it. I know when my birthday is coming up, I know school is happening and then fall is just around the corner. And the other day I woke up and I saw these red and green colors already in the grass, and I was like, no, not already. But anyways, we're gonna enjoy the last days of summer with a bang. All right, okay guys, so let me talk to you a little bit about the books that I've been reading so far. I read a lot of books already. So I have read 7 books already, and I will be talking about 4 books today, and they will all be about Nigeria, NAIJA NAIJA people. All right, the first book I will be talking to you about is The Girl with the Louding Voice by Adoni. I don't know where this book has been my whole life, but it's gonna be part of my favorite books of this year. I can't wait to do that video, guys, because I have some favorites that have stayed with me, that have marked me, and I am very grateful to have read these books. And The Girl with the Louding Voice was such a read. I found myself crying, laughing, losing myself in like my thoughts, thinking about this girl, what she was going through, and the many girls like her going through so much suffering, and them only wanting to do one thing, which was study. And if you guys haven't heard about The Girl with the Louding Voice, let me put it into perspective for you. So we have this character, her name is Adoni, and before we even get into talking about Adoni and her story, I want you guys to make sure that if you have not picked up the book, make sure you listen to it. Listen to it on Audible. It is the best way to grasp the depth of this book, because the narrator, the way she tells the story, the way she portrays the character, the way she amplifies the feelings at the right moment, you feel it. So it is important for you guys to listen to the book. You can read it. I don't think you'd have you won't grasp the feelings that Adoni is trying to portray. I don't think so. But if you want to be a hero and just read it, hey, I can't stop you. Alright, so let me tell you a little bit about Adoni. Adoni is this girl who lives in Nigeria, precisely in Okati. It is a village in Nigeria, and you can just imagine it is obviously stricken with poverty. And Adoni is this little girl who's just 14 years old. She lives with her dad and her 2 brothers in a shack of a house, and unfortunately she lost her mom to a sickness. And as you get to know Adoni, you can understand that she is missing her mother, and her relationship with her dad is not that great. because of the poverty and the situation they find themselves in, her father wants to marry her to a man, a Nigerian man who already has 2 wives and a couple of children. And that man be old. And that's what the father of Adoni decides to do. To marry Adoni, who's 14 years old, to this man called Marufu. And unfortunately, Adoni has no choice. They need to pay the bills for the house. They don't have that much money, and her marrying the man will provide the money and the means for the father to continue living in the house and paying for rent. So off she is married to Marufu, and she goes there, and you can imagine she is miserable. She's crying with her little brother, because she knows she's very close to her little brother, not to her older brother. They say their goodbyes, and you can tell that she is heartbroken. Like, I cannot conceive the idea of marrying children at 14 these days. Can you guys imagine? Preposterous. So she gets married to Marufu. He brings her to his house, where she will meet Khadija, who is the second wife, and then there's the first wife, who's apparently not all there in her head. She's very mean to Adoni, and Adoni obviously wants to make herself small because she obviously does not want to be there, but she has no choice. She becomes friends with Khadija, who shows her the house, who shows her what not to do, how to stay away from the first wife. And these two women, Adoni and Khadija, forge a unlikely relationship, a friendship. Khadija is pregnant. She already has about 3 children. Marufu wants her to have a boy because he doesn't have boys. And she's so convinced, Khadija, that she will have a boy. Adoni is there to accompany her throughout the pregnancy. She sings for the baby. She's there. And at some point, Khadija asks Adoni to go with her in another part of town so that she could go and meet this man who's supposed to help her with her pregnancy, because she's having issues with her pregnancy. And of course, she doesn't want to lose the pregnancy because her husband is expecting her to bring this boy into the world alive and well. Off they go to this part of the other town. They meet this man, and Lord behold, that man is Khadija's boyfriend. Ooh, yes. Khadija got a boyfriend. She got her own boyfriend and a husband. Go girl. Anyways, things go wrong. Khadija is supposed to be brought into a river so that she can be baptized or helped so that her pregnancy can be well. That man, her boyfriend, runs away, and Khadija and Adoni is left with Khadija by the river, not knowing what to do and fearing for Khadija's life. And unfortunately, Khadija passes away, and that's when Adoni's trouble starts. Adoni's life is turned upside down. She is left alone. She has to come up with a decision of what she's gonna do, and she knows if she goes back to the village where Marufu is, and the chief of the village is made aware of what happened, she knows she will be killed, dead, done. So what does she do? The girl runs away. She leaves Khadija there by the river. Now she's very miserable. She did try to find the boyfriend, Bamidale. I remember the name. Yes, Bamidale. She tried to find him. He ran. He wasn't there. That man ran away. And unfortunately, Khadija knows that her life is over in Ukati. So she runs away. She finds this older woman who's crippled, like it's no one's business. Like she's completely not able to take care of herself. But she once knew Adoni's mother. So she decides to help her by calling her brother. And her brother does come to fetch Adoni. But before I even tell you about that part, Adoni's father and her little brother came to knock at that woman's door because they heard that she was there. And the way and the place where Adoni hid, you guys have to read that part or at least listen to it. I was dying of laughter and of putrid disgust just because she had to hide in a hole where there was shit and there was poop and there was feces. I know I'm saying the same shit 3 different ways, but just for you to imagine. That's where she had to hide so she wouldn't be found by her dad. Ooh. And that's just the beginning of her trouble, guys. Fast forward, the brother picks her up, brings her to this old lady. This kid that I did at the beginning, Big Madame. Yes, that's her. She brings her to her house. This Big Madame has a big house, huge house in Nigeria. She's very important. She is very known in Lagos. So, unfortunately, Adoni is made to work very, very hard. And that does not actually shock me, because I've heard of African people who are rich, and whenever they have, on les appelle des domestiques, housemates, they always mistreat them, which is very terrible, but it's quite it's a regular thing in Africa, in those rich households. And Adoni was 14 years old, is made to scrub the floors of the bathroom. Can you imagine, with the toothbrush, the insides of the tiles in the bathroom, throughout the house? She's even made to go and clean the gardens outside from 5 all the way to 7 p.m. And she gets beaten. When I say beaten, Adoni gets beaten to the point where she has scars from those beatings, as you can tell from the little skit that I did. She was really mistreated. And all Adoni wants is to just go to school. From the beginning of the story till the end, Adoni had one dream, and that was for her to go to school so that she can have a louding voice. And with that louding voice, she can make herself heard. She can teach other children, other girls, that with school, they can go far. They don't have to marry young and marry all these old, dying men of Nigeria. And that's essentially the beauty of the story. And she does meet a lovely lady who helps her write this essay that will give her a chance to go to school, and also a scholarship to pay for the school. And God, my God, did I love this story. I cried, feeling for Adoni whenever she'd sometimes be in her room, wanting her mother, thinking about her little brother, and just thinking of how alone she was in the world. I can't imagine. Woo! That story. And to just imagine, it is the story of many girls, not just in Nigeria, but even in my country and possibly most of Africa. They're just these young girls that just want to have a chance to go to school. Like, really. So that was a beautiful story, guys. So if you have not picked up the story, please read it or listen to it. It will mark your life. Next, I will be talking about Yinka, Where Is Your Husband by Lizzie Damiola Blackburn. Yinka, Where Is Your Husband? So this book was actually part of my TBR, if I'm not mistaken, since January or February, like that early, and I kept postponing it. So I was like, okay, finally, since I'm doing this Nigeria edition of book reviews, I was like, let me just add it to my TBR. Now, Yinka is this lovely Nigerian girl. She is 31 years old, and she is at that age where in every African family, we start questioning the reasons why you are not married. And she has a sister by the name of Kemi, who is my son's name as well. So, hi Kemi. And she is her little sister. She is married and is pregnant. There are this baby shower. That's how the story starts. There are this baby shower, or her sister's Kemi baby shower, and her mom, which I believe I'm gonna just do a video of all these Nigerian books that I've read, where all these Nigerian mothers are so overbearing, so in your business. And her mother decides to do a prayer in front of the whole congregation, in front of everybody gathered of the baby shower. Her aunties are also there, her mother's sisters, and they're also as overbearing as their Yinka's mother. Her mother decides to pray, and in her prayer, she obviously prays for her Kimi and her son-in-law, and she decides to also pray for Yinka, asking God to give her a husband and all of that. And the way the story sounds, it's as if it's a recurrence. It is always like that, where her mother is always on her back, asking her about this husband thing. And Yinka, she's getting fed up of the pressure. Understandably. It's not like it depends on just her to find that man. She once was engaged to a Nigerian man who actually traveled, and he broke up with her. So she found herself focusing on her work, on her career, and she's well established. But now, because of the mounting pressure of getting married and her age, she decides that she concocts this whole big scheme, this plan of finding a husband. And in the midst of it, she has a few of her best friends. One of them gets engaged. Like, come on, this girl is trying to find a husband and everybody else is getting married by her. So now she has to deal with her friend's engagement, and they all have a goal. One of her goals is to find a date that will, if not a husband, a date to come with at the wedding. Perfect. Sounds all dandy, all well, like nothing will go wrong. And that's not what happened. Everything goes wrong. So in the process of her finding her Mr. Right, she has these post-it notes. And I love the way the book was written. You would see certain chapters where, let me just, like here, she has like this whole plan where she writes her goal, what she's getting from it, and then she abides by those goals. So she starts the date. She opens up a Tinder account, which she doesn't really like, and then she will meet all these different people. And oh guys, I forget, one aspect about Yinka is that she has not been sexually active, so she's a virgin, like, right? We have how do you call it, a dinosaur living in this day and age. And she says it. She says she does not talk about her her sexual life because of how she will be looked at. Not everybody these days are fancy virginity. So in the midst of her finding or trying to find a husband, she has this other friend, Donovan. So Donovan, he's of Jamaican descent, and they had a history, not like a love story, but when they were in school, they traveled somewhere together, and he was always questioning her belief because Yinka is a firm believer in God. And there's also that aspect of church, the involvement of church in Yinka's personal life. And Donovan is just a non-believer, and he has his own reasons of why he doesn't believe in God. But back in the days, there were always butt heads. He didn't understand why she was such a believer in God, knowing all the bullshit that's going on in the world, and she was just like, leave me alone with my own beliefs, right? But that was in the past. In recent days, they meet up because she goes to this shelter meeting where they go outside, her and a group of people, they go outside and they are helping people by giving them food, and it's one of her passion, but she kind of put it on the back burner and decided to focus into the world of banking. And that's also one aspect that her friends bring to her attention. It's that you're doing something that you're not happy with, and you're not happy with, so why don't you go back to doing this whole shelter and helping people, because that's what made you happy. But she's like, no, that's not where the money is. And Donovan is also one that she meets there. They rekindle their friendship and they start talking, yet there's still tension between them because Donovan is still not a believer, she is a believer, and that's one aspect or one criteria that she's looking for in her future husband. Donovan will not be able to give her that. But outside of that, she loses focus of who she is by trying to find that husband and falling for the pressure from her mom, from her aunties, from her community, even from her friends. And there's also this strife that starts to happen between her friends and her cousin, and all of that gets to her head. At some point, she has an altercation with her friend, and her friend is like, you need to go see a counselor because you're doing things that you're not supposed to be doing, and it's not like you, and you're gonna lose this friendship. Like, at some point, none of her friends are talking to her, and Yinka has to finally take a step back and realize that what she's doing is only driving the people and her family and friends away, and even more further from finding the husband. And that's basically what we see. Like, we see her character development throughout the story once she starts realizing that this is not the correct way of doing things, of finding a husband. But also one thing that I noticed in the book, there was one insecurity that Yinka was also battling throughout this journey of hers, and it was her skin. She's of dark skin, and at some point in the book you see in where her aunties and mother are mingling, they introduce her to this man who is handsome, and she thinks there is chemistry between them, only to find out that that man, after like a few dates or a few meeting together, they're laughing, they seem to get along, and she's thinking that she is finding Mr. Right, but only to find out that that man was interested in her friend. Oh, ouch, my heart. Yeah, I felt that, and you can just realize her pain of hearing that. But outside of that, she battles with the insecurity of being dark skinned, and it does come a lot in the book where she mentions how she was growing up and her dad did pass away, but she remembers how her dad will always give her that confidence by telling her that she's beautiful and she should trust in herself. By her not being able to find a man, it puts into question if she is truly beautiful, and she sees all these people who always want to go out with light skin, and she starts to question her beauty, and her friend tells her. And I love what her friend tells her. She has a tattoo and she shows her, she says, what does it say? It says, I am who I say I am. And to all my dark, lovely, beautiful girls, I will never stop saying this. And I hope we are in a better world where we can finally be ourselves with the natural skin tone that was given to us by the almighty God Goddess. Yinka has to realize in the end that that's her skin and she has to rock it, and she does, because one of her friends, she designs clothes and she does ask Yinka to go and model some of her bathing suit, and you can just see Yinka gaining back her power and owning it. And I loved that bang at the end. It is the way she walked on that aisle. No, she didn't make it that far, sorry. It is the way she walks on the runway and actually models her body, owning her power, her dark skin, her beauty. And I was like, yes, Yinka, yes. But anyways, I absolutely love this story. And if I did mention it, it's a story of Nigerian family set in London, UK. And finally, Yinka realizes that, you know what, she effed up. You know, her plan, she throws it in the garbage and then lets herself accept that things will fall into place. Her husband will come whenever the time is right, and maybe he's right there in front of her eyes and she just didn't notice, but maybe she will finally notice. All right, guys, so that was Yinka, Where Is Your Husband? If you have not read this book, it is a quick read. Don't be fooled by the thickness. It is quick, and it's a very lovely story. I will give my rating of these books at the end. Next, we have again a Nigerian story, but not fantasy, a science fiction one. And this is one is by Nnedi Okorafor. Now, I remember Tangible Reads had done a review on this back way earlier in the year, and it had been on my TBR, and I'm just getting through it. Like many other books that were mentioned by my booktubers that I follow, I'm just slowly getting to them. All right, so this is titled Noor, and in this story, we follow Eo and DNA. But let me tell you the story of Eo. Eo is, of course, Nigerian. She lives in Lagos. In Lagos. Oh my god. So Eo was born with deformities. And unfortunately, due to those deformities, she was not forced, but essentially pushed to buy mechanical parts, so that, like, prosthetic for her arms, prosthetic for her legs. So she is considered this half human, half robot. And she lives in our day and age, because you obviously hear about connection, wireless, you hear about Tinder, Twitter, you hear about all of that. So she lives in this era. It's a bit futuristic once you delve into deeper into the story. And the only thing with Eo is that she is not fully accepted by her community. Although they live with her, people still speak behind her back. People still look at her in a weird way, find her strange, and they think that because she is this half robotic, that she doesn't have feelings, she's not a woman. She has been questioned if she was a woman, and believe it or not, she actually does have a boyfriend who also kind of feels strangely about her. So one day, Eo, whose name is Anuli Okudili, but let's call her Eo, goes to the market because, she needs to buy some stuff. And a group of men are staring at her. And all of a sudden, they decide to attack Eo. Now, Eo being half robotic, you can just imagine she has a little bit of that super strength. And a fight ensues. Those men are dead. What does she do? She runs away. Run. She runs away and finds herself in the middle of the desert. There, she meets this young man who's called DNA. Yes, DNA, you heard it correctly. But his real name is Dangote Nuhu Adamu. Hence the shortcut, which is DNA. And they find themselves in the desert, but he is also running away from something. And throughout the book, you discover he tells her the reason why he was running away. So before he met her, he was attacked by some villagers who thought they were terrorists. And it was a mistake, because there were some herdsmen that did come into the village and killed some of the villagers, but it was not ADN and his people. But unfortunately, were mistaken for those herdsmen, and therefore they were hacked. When I say hacked, like machetes, we're talking a brutal, like, bang with machetes. And all of this is being filmed, is being captured with the camera. At some point, ADN is there. He's not, like, no one sees him, but he shoots a woman, and that is filmed and obviously televised everywhere around Africa. So that's the story he tells Eo. Finally, he arrives to his village. Eo and ADN, obviously they're traveling through the desert, and they arrive in his village. And obviously his family, community are weary of welcoming him back because of what they've seen. So he tries to convince them, tell them, we didn't kill those villagers. We were mistaken for some other herdsmen. But his villagers are like, yeah, even if we believe you, you have to run away, because the whole of Nigeria is after you. So you've got to run away. So they tell him that he has to go see this Baba Solar. Is it Baba Solar? Something like that, like a white sorcerer. He's Caucasian, believe it or not. And they have to go through the red eye. The red eye, I think it's one of those turbines, those huge, how you might call it, those big winds that you see in the desert, that if it catches you, you dead. You dead. So they have to go through it in order to meet that sorcerer. And they go through it. He has some type of masks that they wear to hide their face from the sand and the wind. They meet that Caucasian man who is so strange, because he's in a tent and he tells them basically what they need to hear and where they need to go. And at some point you see Eo is given weed. She smokes the weed, and you can tell how she starts like laughing, and ADN or like and the sorcerer is looking at Eo like, the fuck, and she's just laughing when it's not funny. Anyways, that's just a little extra. But outside of that, once they get what they need to get from the sorcerer, they travel far away, and they are met by these drones. And that's also one aspect of the book. They talk about these drones that are sent by this big company, and this big company is called Ultimate Corp. So Ultimate Corp is this big company that is responsible for providing connection, I think, light, electricity throughout Nigeria. And once they go into the desert, these drones have cameras, and within those cameras are there to capture AO and ADN. You wonder why are they so adamant about capturing these people? They want to kill them. Do they have like a secret, something that they hold? And we do find out the reason why they are so adamant about capturing these two. And at some point, AO finds herself capable of, with her mind, killing these drones. Like with her mind, but it does, by exercising such power, it takes a toll on her body. But she's able to kill those drones and hence give them another chance to keep running. And they get to this city that is called Hourglass. And in that city, it is a city basically that gets resetted. So you can't see that city in that desert. It gets resetted and it disappears, or like the connections gets resetted, and then everything gets erased, and something futuristic like that. So they arrive in that city, everybody's happy, they're like heroes in that city. Everywhere else in the world, they're seen as a murderess and a murderer. But in that city, Hourglass, they're seen as these heroes. And then she meets her ex. He's called Force. Yeah, like Star Wars, the Force. But he's called Force. And there, he is able to explain to her how the whole community work there, and then how they've never seen the real sky, and how it's the workings of Hourglass works through electricity or the red eye and some complicated thing like that. But what she finds out, which is the most important part of the story, is the reason why she was born deformed. Come to find out that her mother was eating these olives that were genetically modified, and because of those genetically modified olives, some studies were done and found that due to the ingestion of those foods, some kids or pregnant women were going to give birth to kids that were deformed, and she was part of that. And she thought at the beginning of the story that when she was being given the chance to try all these different parts prosthetic for her body, she thought she was initiating the process, but she comes to finally understand that she was only a plan in the bigger scheme of things. So essentially that's the gist of the story. The end is the end. Obviously I can't tell you the end or the way it ends, but I enjoyed the science fiction part of this story. I love the way they talked about egusi and yam, all that, Nigerian food. I love the personality of AO and ADN. They do have a little love story in it. It was really cute. I enjoyed it, but essentially it was really very interesting. And what I found out is that the author does talk about the way he came up with this story, and how there is these power plants being built throughout Africa for light, and that is providing electricity and connection to some parts of Africa, which I found fantastic. So that's the story. So Noor by Nedi Okorafor. Good story. And lastly, on this NAIJA expedition or journey, we have His Only Wife. Now this one is actually by a Ghanaian author. Now because I don't have a lot of Ghanaian authors, I thought I'd just put it in this category of Nigeria. I mean, us African women, we're all the same. Trust me, this story, His Only Wife by Peace Adzo Medi, blew my mind. Y'all read the story? I mean, I finished it like in a day and a half. This story was like amazing. So in this story, we follow Eli and Afi. And I will go ahead and say this is not a small town romance. It's a big town romance. And I shall explain myself and the reasons why I'm saying this. Afi lives in a small village in Ghana. And she lives with her mother. Her father passed away. What's going on with all these fathers passing away and them staying with the mother? All these stories, right? Anyways, her father passes away, and when that happens, unfortunately, those families have to be moved away from the house, and they have to either find housing with some family members, and that's what happened. So her mom is forced to go beg for housing at her uncle's. Afi's uncle's, who's the brother of her father, but unfortunately, because he has himself a big family, he's not able to take them in until we meet this auntie. They call, like, I guess older, instead of being called madame, they called auntie. So auntie is this really big businesswoman who's known in Ghana, and she gives them a house where they live. So obviously you can imagine the debt that the mother and the daughter have when it comes to the auntie will help them find housing. And obviously they come beckoning to almost repay that debt. So auntie comes with a plan. She asks Afi's mother to ask Afi to marry their son. But the only thing is, their son is already married to another woman. And the explanation is that, first off, he's outside of town. The explanation is that the family does not like this woman because this woman apparently is very disrespectful to the family, and she doesn't let them see the child. They have a child together, the son, the auntie's son, and this woman, and they just don't want her. So her job would be to marry Eli, that's his name, and take him away from that woman. Easy, simple, and done, right? Wrong. But she accepts. She decides to marry. I mean, what choice does she have? Her mom almost kind of begs her, tells her, you know, the life that they have, like if she doesn't do it and all of that. No problem, she decides to marry Eli. And who comes to marry Eli? It's the whole family but Eli. Eli could not be bothered to come and marry his wife. Charlie. Anyways, long story short, the marriage occurs, and then she is brought to Accra, which is a big town in the city of Ghana. No problem. She's put in a beautiful apartment, like very nice contemporary apartment. There I think she stays there for more than a month before Eli decides to come and see her. And she's obviously well-mannered, well-prepared for this marriage. No problem, he comes, she cooks for him, she prepares the water for his bath, she sits with him when he's eating, she asks him questions, and she obviously wants to know when he's gonna come either live with her or when is he gonna bring her to his house, because she's the wife. That's what she thinks. This man comes up with all sorts of excuses. Don't worry, very soon, we're gonna come in. You have to understand, we have a child together. She's very sickly. It's not that evident for me to just gonna walk up and leave, but it's a work in progress. Finally, this is where I'm talking about the big town romance. They do live a romance together. They have feelings for each other. That's undeniable. And while she's there, her mom was there to help. She goes back to her village and she stays there with Eli. They go out, they meet her friends, her family, like Eli's brother and sister, their families. I mean, it's a whole big party. She's accepted, she's well taken care of, and at some point she even asks her sister-in-law she wants to go to a school to become a seamstress, and she is able to get to that school where she learns to sew, design clothes, and all of that. That's all good and dandy. But the question remains, when will she move to the house? Eli still won't allow her to go to the house. Finally, something happens. She becomes pregnant. Okay, that's great, right? He's finally gonna move her to the big house. No. Now, She's getting fed up. She's like, I'm having your son. I'm your wife. You married me. What is going on? Why can't you move her? Or like, why aren't you divorcing? What's going on? Like, she's still left in the dark. And everybody in the man's family keeps telling her, just, it's okay, he's gonna leave the girl. You keep doing what you're doing, you know? And finally, at some point, she goes and talks to her mom. And I love that part. Let me find that part. I just want to read you a little part of when Afi is thinking about this plan that her auntie and her mom have concocted in order for her to marry auntie's son. She says, what kind of person was I for even second guessing auntie, for thinking that anything she planned could go badly for me, for putting myself before her, before my mother? How could I throw away the opportunity to give my mother a better life after all that she has suffered? Can you imagine the pressure? I mean, we're talking about your life. This is going to be your life, you and that man. But in her case, she had to consider her mom. She did this for her mom. This is why whenever we say, like, I remember growing up, it's like, don't marry for your family, because in that house, once your family's gone, it's you and that man. And then what? All right, guys, so this is the part I was looking for. When she finally calls her mom and tells her, like, she can't do it. She's like, she's done. She says, I did everything you told me to do, everything that you and auntie told me to do. I cooked and cleaned and smiled and spread my legs as wide as I could, but he still left. Okay, what else is left? You did everything. And it's funny because I had this conversation with one of the girls from our book club, and she felt that Afi was too gullible. Yet I felt that she wasn't gullible. She truly gave this relationship a chance. And I know there were red lights, there were signs that showed that, girl, just get out. This is not what it seems. This is not, like, you need to get out. I get that, but I truly feel that she honestly wanted to give this relationship a chance. And she did. She took drastic measures. You know what she did, ladies and gents? She told Eli that she's gonna go back to her village with the baby, and if he wants her, he has to come get her to the village and bring her home. Oh, now that little villager stood her ground, and I was proud of her. I was like, go Afi, go Afi. And you know what? Oh my god, this story was shocking. I was dying. Like, it was good though. Like, it was a page turner, because do you think Eli came? Yes, he did. You think he brought her into the big house? Yes, he did. Now, you think she finally got what she wanted, Afi? No. She got more than what she bargained for. She finally found out the truth. And that truth is what makes this book absolutely stunning. Great, fantastic, great, gripping story. She finally discovered that Eli was a scum. Now, I can't tell you nothing. I can't tell you nothing. I'm gonna stop there, guys, because I cannot tell you anything. I hope I've told you enough to really intrigue you into picking up this story if you have not read it yet. And if you have, y'all know about the end, right? Y'all know about the end. Oh man, I love the end, yo. I love the end. Jesus. One day I'm gonna do a review on these books and just have lots of spoilers, because how y'all know that I read these books if I don't tell you the end? How y'all know? Anyways, guys, I'm gonna cut it short and tell you that I had a fantastic journey with all these African stories, because these African people, they can surely tell a story. Now, I want to rate these stories before I conclude this video. For the first one, The Girl with the Louding Voice, it is 4.5 out of 9. Hands down, 4.5 star. Mwah, mwah, chef's kiss. And then the next one I spoke about is Yinka, Where Is Your Husband? 3.5 out of 5. It was a beautiful story. It was a cute story. I mean, it was deep enough, but like, I didn't feel that it was like, extraordinary. Like, it didn't grip me. Like, it had some funny moments, it had good parts, 3.5 out of 5. I enjoy the story. And then I had Noor. It was obviously a science fiction story. I also enjoyed that, and it is 3 out of 5. It was a good story for a science fiction category. 3 out of 5. I enjoyed it. And then this, His Only Wife, 4.5 out of 5. Yo, stop. 4.5 stars. Like, this book, shit. Love when some African women are portrayed the way the author portrayed this woman. Like, 4.5 star out of 5. And that's it. There you have it, my reviews of these books, NAIJA edition. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave me a little birthday emoji to show your excitement for me. Yay. But anyways, other than that, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also share. All right, and I will see you in my next video. Ciao.